Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe to Love. Now, just want to get this out of the way right off the bat. AEW Dynamite Wednesday was a bit disappointing. Had some good spots, which we'll talk about in a bit. Thank you all for joining me here on the podcast today. But I think we can definitely say it was a bit disappointing. It wasn't terrible show, but it was a bit disappointing. So, why it was a bit disappointing? A couple areas. So, it's been like a running gag, it seems, for a number of weeks, especially recently. So, the women's division of AEW has a lot of really good talent in that division. However, especially over the last week, I think we can say it's been really showing. It's been disappointing with how. So, there was a fatal four-way women's match on Rampage. For those who didn't watch Rampage on Friday, so there was a four-way women's match to determine who would take Shida for the women's championship on Collision on Saturday, which, because it's Halloween edition or season, Abaddon wins it, and I feel bad for Abaddon because, well, she has not really been shown on TV in months, and because it's Halloween season, she got the shot. But in that match, that four-way match on Rampage was Willow Nightingale. She lost, and she gets shot Shida on Wednesday, which was a fine match, but it's a bit of a logic gap, I'd say. Now, what happened after the match, that was very fun. And with the old Julia Hart Sky Blue thing. But, yeah. And Tony Khan. Mr. Tony Khan. So, there's an important announcement. Now, for those who know, I've been catching up with WWE. I think it was last week. They said that WWE was going to have a premium live event. I so hate that term, but premium live event at the end of August next year. Now, we know All In was a very good success at the end of August in London, and they're going back there next year at the end of August. So, WWE strategically announced that that on the week end of All In next year, that WWE would have Bash at Berlin in Berlin. So at the end of August. So then we hear Tony Khan has a bit of an announcement, and we know what the tirade of tweets that Tony had after NXT beat AEW in the ring on Tuesday a couple weeks ago. He was probably not pleased with the news. So, what was his announcement? Well, Tony Khan and Nigel McGuinness, they announced that pre-order sales for AEW All In will start up in December. There you go. Now, here's the thing. We're at that point where important announcement, if it's not something big that people are going to nitpick it, people are going to pick it apart, and people are going to be disappointed. So, because of the graphic, if there was no graphic of important announcement, and we just saw the video or thing of Tony Khan and Nigel McGuinness, that announcement, it would be okay. Or even if it was just a tweet, but because important announcement, you get people's hopes up, and there's a point. But I think the number one thing why people, so AEW got backlash for putting MJF and Kenny Omega on Collision, and huge match with not much build other than Kenny Omega defending his streak or reign as the longest reigning AEW World Champion, which is now MJF. But a huge match between the two thrown away on free TV. And I said, and I think many would agree, if it was going to lead to MJF teaming with the Elite for the main event for this, MJF has to have 3 partners. It's like that would have been okay if it led into a story. But nothing really came out of that. So I can see why people are disappointed. And instead, for Kenny Omega, I'll talk about Paul White later, but in a bit. But instead, after all this ruckus, it's the Acclaimed. It was the Acclaimed, MJF's partners in the main event for Sport Club Gold. The Acclaimed, look, we all like the Acclaimed. That's a given. But the problem is after all that ruckus and development of who MJF's partners would be, for it to just be the Acclaimed, after all, pretty underwhelming. Now, I'll say this, how I said about NJFK Omega. Hopefully this leads into a acclaimed Bullet Club Gold feud, and Bullet Club Gold end up taking the trio's titles from the Acclaim. If that's that, then okay. But I mean, after what's happened over the last couple weeks, I think people are probably disappointed. That's just my 2 cents. But anyway, let's go over the review, guys. Thank you all for joining me. Again, if you guys are new to the channel and want to catch up more, follow those. Hit the subscription and no drill. But yeah. So, AEW Dynamite. So with MJF. So MJF was backstage with Renee Podcast. She was trying to ask him about his pursuit of 3 tag team partners. He basically had a list. So, MJF talked about a list, looking for partners, and then they were backstage and there was the big screen. So, and Adam Cole was on the big screen as he was video chatting with MJF. And so Adam Cole, he's growing his beard out. He looks different. So he told him, he's hanging there. He's upset that he can't be there to tag with them or team with them. But he says he should consider Samoa Joe's offer of, being his friend for a world title shot. So MJF's like, yeah, but he did try to break my neck last time we were in the ring together. So yeah. So MJF said he promises he'll defend their Ring of Honor tag team titles for him at Full Gear against Guns. But he's got to go look for his partner. So yeah. So he left, and all of a sudden we hear, Adam! Adam! So Roddy strolls in with the Kingdom wheelchair, and Matt Taven's got the giraffe. So he's all checking in with Adam Cole and says, well, they're upset that MJF didn't pick them to be his partners. So Adam Cole was like kind of fed up, and then he hung up. So there you go. Orange Cassidy. So the International Championship. This was a fun opener. I mean, you know, yes, you know, for a while, for the longest time during his first title reign, Orange Cassidy opening the show was repetitive, kind of got annoying. But this time it felt refreshing. Against Claudio, which, was a very good match. I kind of wanted Claudio to win, or hoped, but instead with Jon Moxley, it seems inevitable Moxley's going to get his title back after. So, but this is a good match. So there was an altercation with Willow Yuta and Hook in the middle of the match. But where they both had to leave the ringside area. But so didn't take too much away from the match. So Orange went for one suicide, went for another, but was pressed by Claudio and went kind of shoulder first into the guardrail, which was a bit of story of the match. Good spot here. So Cassidy went for a sunset flip powerbomb out of the corner. But Claudio, while on the ropes, pulled him up and then his delayed superplex to Orange Cassidy off the ropes, and there you go. So then they made their way to the outside. Cassidy got the advantage to a tornado DT. Back in ring, Claudio made the counter and hit big giant swing into a sharpshooter. Orange countered out of that. Orange followed with a beach break, but Claudio made his way to the outside. Second ring, Orange managed to hit another tornado DT for a near fall. Finally, Orange rallied the victory, hit Corona, then put his hands in his pockets. 1, 2, 3. And Orange Cassidy survives Claudio. Afterwards, so we see Claudio dejected on the ropes, Orange Cassidy on the outside in pain. Jon Moxley's music play, and he made the rounds earlier this week saying that there needs to be parameters for wrestling to be safer for allies. And, obviously people were poked fun because you know how Moxley how violent he is with wrestling and, you know, blood and weapons and all that jazz. So, but he does have a point. You know, for a guy that's that high up in AEW, for him to say that, that's true. Because, look, how he got injured was, wasn't great. The saw with Phoenix in their match, which tribulated to him winning the title abruptly. And Moxley getting injured. Now Phoenix is hurt. But yes, less pile drivers, less. We've been saying this numerous times. Less pile drivers, less people being dumped on their head would certainly help. I'm not saying remove the move completely, but not as much. It would certainly make AEW wrestling feel a bit safer. And have the critics less and less something to criticize, I would say. So, our next MJF segment, because we have plenty, was him beginning his pursuit of tag team partners for the main event. So, quite hilarious. So, they talked about Samoa Joe earlier. So he was right outside Samoa Joe's locker room. Looked like he was about to knock on his door, accept his offer from to be his partner for a title shot, but reluctantly said no. Or was like, nah, change heart last second. So then he walks over and there's Darby Allin's locker room. So there was a piece of paper that was in front that said Darby Allin with the AEW logo in front. And instead of knocking on his door, he got out a Sharpie and wrote on the piece of paper, he wrote emo bitch. So clearly that's a no from Max. And then yeah. But yeah, that was one. Oh wait, no, that I was jumping at. This one was later. My bad. So this was the first one. So MJF, speaking of the match with Kenny Omega, he was outside Kenny Omega's locker room. So he knocked on it, and who opened it was Chris Jericho. And we know MJF and Jericho's history in AEW, and he was just met with a smug smirk and asked, "Is Kenny in there?" Jericho just smiled and shut the door. MJF said, so MJF was walking around, he was strolling, and then Wardlow out of nowhere grabs him by the throat and pins him to the wall. And he's like, "You took everything from me, and I'm going to take everything from you when you least expect it." And he was chuckling and laughing as he left. And then MJF turns to the corner, and who's hiding but the Acclaimed offers to be partners for the evening, or the main event. MJF leaves. So there we go. Then we got Jon Moxley. So Moxley talked about Cassidy, being in the right place at the right time when he got injured to face Phoenix and then to win the title back. Says ultimately at Full Gear, he's gonna repay his dues and get back his title and finish this. So yeah, Moxley laid out a challenge for Full Gear, and it was announced Moxley versus Orange Cassidy Part 2 at Full Gear. Part 1 at All Out was good, but so we'll see how it goes in LA. So the Mogul Embassy. So Prince Nana announced that Prince Nana announced that Mogul Embassy will exercise their rematch clause. Too much. Rematch clauses for the Ring of Honor 6-man titles. I mean, I could go on, but I'll say is people already criticize that AEW has enough titles, and yet we're feud over the Ring of Honor 6-man titles, and AEW has their trio titles of their own. Which the Acclaimed, again, back to the Acclaimed, they're doing nothing really with them. And it's odd to see what they've done since winning the titles. They haven't really helped titles. So we got the Mogul Embassy here. Prince Nana was in the corner of Brian Cage and Gates of Agony. They went to the locker room versus Hangman Page and the Bucks My thing, so of course with the nameplates of those introduced usually says something quirky or funny. So the quote about Hangman said that Hangman needs to get a better security system. So that was kind of quirk. So, but this match didn't last long. It was more about. I mean, I get it. Kind of way to help propel into a match too. Swerve and Hangman. So Bucks were getting beat down. Hangman got the hot tag. It was kind of convenient that I said he was cleaning house. And then as he was looking to set up for a buckshot lariat, we hear Swerve with a microphone saying, "Whose house?" And he just said it numerous times. He and Nana appeared on stage. Hangman was distracted, and Swerve said, "Well, last week, apparently I was in your house." So, Hangman angrily charged at Swerve, and the chase was on. From there, it was kind of academic, as it was a handicap match. So, Gates of Agony continued with the offense on the Bucks, particularly Matt Jackson, and Khan went like a forward backdrop, like a backdrop press on Matt Jackson for the win, and they regained the ROH six-man championships. So there you go. So we get to what I was talking about earlier. So MJF went to Samoa Joe's locker room. He was like, no. Went to Starbucks, writ that thing on his nameplate. So there we go. So then went and the Acclaimed tried to check on him, and again was met with, rejection. So there you go. I mean, MJF having a week to find 3 partners, and that was, yeah. Radar superstar Adam Copeland, introduced by Tony Schiavone. Copeland was out there saying, if you guys knew. So first he praised Tony Schiavone and said, if you guys knew how many hats Tony wore backstage, you'd be cheering a lot louder. So Copeland was basically, talking about thing what happened with Sting and Darby last week, saying, trying to get to a point of would they be their partner at Full Gear. So then Christian Cage is Mr. Father of the Year. I think that's his nickname. Now in commentary. Mr. Father of the Year. His music played. Christian Cage out there with Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus. Interesting enough, this was the first time I felt that Nick Wayne dressed like a heel, like a cocky, pricky, like kid. Good touch, and it wasn't much. Just the black jacket, the smug. I mean, when he wore that sweater, I was like, this guy doesn't really look like a heel. I mean, doesn't look like a good. Looks like an ugly Christmas sweater, but either way, those little things on how to make a heel better. Like how Christian wears a turtleneck, wrestles in a turtleneck. So he was out there, and Christian suggested to his longtime friend that he should back off the offer of being Sting and Darby's partner. Paint a picture saying, well, he plans to retire Sting at Full Gear, whether he likes it or not. Darby has a gimp arm because of what he did to him at Wrestling, which is still one of the spots I wish didn't happen. Him throwing Darby on those steel steps. And then he doesn't need to remind everyone of Copeland's neck problems and said that, well, if he is their partner, he'll just snap his neck. So the attack went on against Copeland. Christian looked like he wanted to hit a Conchero on Copeland. So we're not calling him Edge. They could all agree. So Sting's music played. He tried out there. He helped in the odds. Same with Darby. He came out like a bat out of hell. Point Excalibur. And as Christian would, Copeland was in the corner as Christian was beating down on Darby. And all of a sudden we just saw that expression. And then as Christian turned around, it was met with a vicious spear by Adam Copeland. And he said, "You want to snap my neck? Well, listen to me, you little SOB." Saying that I'm going to beat your ass, and that told Darby and told Sting, if you need a partner, want a partner, I'm your partner. So, yep. There you go. Trios match made for Full Gear. Copeland, Darby, Sting versus Christian, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. Definitely the biggest match of Nick Wayne's young career. He saw like 18, 19. Ay. Now, here's the thing. I think we can all agree that the money is with a Christian Cage, Adam Copeland singles match. So, off the bat, them being in a match so early, I don't know. But I think for those of us remember, so last year, last year there was a trios match. It was CM Punk, Darby, and Sting versus FTR and MJF. This was prior to MJF and CM Punk's first singles match, in which they did not touch. MJF ran from CM Punk. So it's totally possible that we could have a similar situation where, despite them being a match together, because that moment, Copeland and Christian face to face in a ring, you know, that would be the first of their moments in AEW. And what happens after is not good as a first. So it's totally possible that Christian Cage acts as a cowardly heel at Full Gear, and maybe we get a situation where Nick Wayne unfortunately will have to eat the pin. It just seems that way. Or maybe Christian Cage attacks Copeland before the bell, or something happens and Copeland is unable to participate in the match. We'll see. But it's like a wait and see thing, because having a match this early is strange. I did like this segment, though. I do like that we're seeing a bit more violence, more radar-esqueness of Copeland. So, yeah. Tony Khan had his announcement. So he was backstage with Nigel McGuinness. Announced about the epic nature of AEW and said next year they'll be back in London, and talked about the Christmas season, and said that in December, for those wanting to get good seats already for All In next year, the start of it comes in December. So pre-sale for tickets starts in December for All In. So there you go. Like I said, if the graphic wasn't made for important announcement, or if this was just tweeted for online, people wouldn't be criticized. And so there you go. Anyway, next up, What happened afterwards? Yeah. Yeah, it's something to say. So, Matt Menard and Angelo Parker with Jake Hager, formerly the JS, versus Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. Fine tag team match, good for what it was. Don Callis' family was on commentary. So, Menard and Parker, they had the advantage. While Jericho went for a lion salt, Menard hit Jericho in the face with a bat, but only got a near fall. I mean, nope. I'm not fond of these weapon spots, not treated great, not sold great. So anyway, it looked like he was reluctant at first, which, by the way, we'll get into it after. So, Menard handed Parker the bat, and he seemed reluctant at first. But he grabbed the bat. Aubrey Edwards, in the most uninspiring way possible, told him you can't use this. So he swung with the bat at Jericho. Jericho dodged, hit juice effect. And that juice effect, I will say. 1, 2, 3 on Parker for the win. Jericho Omega got the win. What I was going to say about Parker is it seems the last week or so he's been developed with some nice on-air chemistry with Ruby Soho. Now, I was wondering, who knows, if assuming they're actually a thing. But Angelo Parker is a good dude, so kudos to him. That's all I'll say. Anyways, so afterwards, after that great match with Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita, Don Callis fended off Powerhouse Hobbs and invited pretty much Kyle Fletcher into the Don Callis family. And he's dressed, he looks well for the Don Callis family. So, he, Takeshita, and Hobbs were there. I'm not sure what's happened to Sammy Guevara. So, Callis praised them, but he said that they're two dummies and that offered to sell this in a street fight in 2 weeks in Ontario, Canada. So they obliged and said that room for another partner, and Omega said Koa Ibushi will be there. So that's one. And Cal said, well, according to his math, you're off one. Me, Will Ospreay, gonna be returning to AEW in 2 weeks. I mean, seriously, I wonder if it's been a concussion or something with Guevara. Anyway, hope he gets better soon. But Ospreay, 2 weeks. So Jericho to the mic and said, well, as big as Powerhouse Hobbs is, he's no giant. So now suddenly we hear, well. So right off the bat, we can tell Big Show, aka Paul White. Paul White. Mr. No More BS is part of Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Koibushi's team for 2 weeks. So it's going to be all war. So 4 weeks, or excuse me, 4 on 4. Takeshita, Fletcher, Hobbs, and Ospreay versus Omega, Jericho, Ibushi, and Paul White. So right off the bat, on paper, something you did not expect in 2023. That's for one. Now, if it's for a one-off, it's for this scenario. I mean, if Ospreay is going to be on that team, they cannot lose. They cannot. I mean, Hobbs, Takeshita, Fletcher, and Ospreay. But I mean, I saw just Paul White just, it looked like, it's sad because it looked like at his old age that he's not well. Not well. I mean, just as a giant, being able to move around. There's a reason why it's a 8-man street fight. If it's for one-off, and, if it's for one-off and Don Callis family wins, okay, good. I get it, okay. I know many of us were hoping it'd be Keith Lee, which, would definitely have been met with a lot less criticism than Paul White was, but we'll see. Yeah, there's a reason why it's an 8-man street fight. See how it goes. AEW's been so good with their legends, so hopefully this doesn't come back to bite them. So we'll see. Well, Nightingale versus Hikaru Shida. I mentioned earlier about, Will getting a title shot, and yeah, match was fine. Really what happened after was the more talking point. So, there's a good avalanche Falcon Arrow by Shida. Will follow with Lariat after Shida countered out of a gut wrench powerbomb. But Shida finally hit the katana for the win. So afterwards, Toni Storm. Yes, Thomas Toni Storm. She was out there with her butler, Luther. And she was not having it. she flipped whatever was in Luther's hand, and then she went after Shida. They fought towards the back. So there you go. So then the lights go out. They come back on. And we see Julia Hart back in the ring as she was behind Willow. And Willow kind of knew what was happening. So she turned around. Julia Hart extended her hand for a handshake. But, Willow was reluctant and could see what was happening. So then we see Sky Blue. And we know how Sky Blue's demeanor and stuff ever since she was missed in the face by Julia. How it's changed. So Sky Blue got in the face of Julia Hart. Julia Hart nodded. She turned around, looked at Nightingale, thinking for a sec she may side with Julia Hart. Instead, she turned around, misted Julia in the eyes, in the face, with blue mist. Julia was, pissed, upset, all in all about it, and yep, Sky Blue's on the good side apparently. So there you go. Little story perhaps elsewhere in the women's division. You can appreciate it. Yeah, getting good. The last MJF backstage the night. So MJF backstage, he was sitting down with his list. He was upset because of unable to really have a partner yet. So he was sitting down with his list, and then all of a sudden the Acclaimed show up, and they have a garbage bag. Again, offered up to be his partners, and they said, we'll be your partners on two conditions: that you have to A, scissor us, and B, wear what's in this garbage bag. Clearly, MJF was disgusted, so he said, no, never. I still got more guys on my list, so there you go. So it's like, okay. So MJF turns around, and there's Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and crew. With Sanam Singh, Karen Jarrett, and Sanjay Dutt. And they were trying to greet Max, trying to be like, yeah, come home. Us be his partners, yeah. Long story short, MJF and the Acclaimed were out there for Spoke Cup Gold. So there you go. So the match was fine. So MJF had a pink scarf, pink trunks and everything, and he ended up wearing a shirt that said, yeah, Scissor Me t-shirt. Anyway, so Match was fine. Didn't go very long. Good portion of it was in commercial break, which is annoying. Actually, before it, so the Kingdom were backstage, and Roddy called Adam Cole, saying, "Can you believe Max asked us to be his partners?" And Roddy or Adam was like, "Shut the hell up." He hung up on them. And then as they were going to break, Taz said, "Hello." So yeah, that was funny. So then we got to the match, MJF has the gear, match didn't go for very long, or we didn't see much of it because commercial break. So MJF was fighting off crew, and then once he finally got the momentum, he turned around. Jay White hit the Blade Runner 1, 2, 3. Jay White beats the world champion clean on Dynamite. I mean, you had the Trios champions, Max Caster, Bowens, and Billy Gunn. Like I said, haven't done really anything with the titles. And you pinned the world champion. Clean. So afterwards, Bulk Hogan was trying to gang up on MJF. The Acclaim saved. And then Jay White tried to blindside MJF for the world title. Max Caster took the bullet. And there you go. So, Caster was out. Bulk Hogan hot-tailed it. Scissor and all, and then that's how Dynamite went off the air. So, like I said, Bulk Hogan eventually wins the Trio Styles. Okay. But, yeah, I can tell this was a disappointing Dynamite to some. They did have good spots, Tag team match, fine. The women's match was good for the most part. Orange Cassidy, Claudio, I enjoyed that. There were good parts of the show. It wasn't a terrible show. It was just disappointing to people. But that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. See developments from this. And Collision on Saturday. So keep up with that. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining me. See you guys. I say it's Sunday, but mostly it gets posted on Monday. My bad. So Sunday, Monday. For Collision review. So keep your eyes open for that. But thank you guys. See you guys next time. Hey, Joe, tone love. Like this video, leave a thumbs up. Thank you. Peace.